Good afternoon and welcome to the New York City Planning Commission review session for Monday, November 29th, 2021. The time is 1:00 p.m. and a quorum is present. The first item on our agenda is a certification of a zoning map and zoning text amendment in Brooklyn Community District 1. Our presenter is Lilia Carrier.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Next slide, please. This is an application by Zucker Enterprise LLC for a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment to facilitate the development of a 10-story mixed-use building located at 840 Lorimer Street in Community District 1, Brooklyn. Next slide, please. The project area is located in Greenpoint in Brooklyn. Next slide, please. So the project area is bounded by Lorimer Street to the west, Driggs Avenue to the south, and Manhattan Avenue to the east. The surrounding area is predominantly a mix of commercial and residential buildings consisting of multifamily and walk-up apartment buildings with ground floor retail. The project area is located partially within an R6A C24 zoning district and an M1, M12, R6, MX8 special mixed use district. The other zoning districts in the surrounding area include R6B zoning districts to the northeast of the project area and an M11 zoning district located to the west of the project area. Next slide, please. The proposed project area outlined in black and the development site highlighted in red is located partially within the Greenpoint Williamsburg upland inclusionary housing area shown outlined in orange. The Greenpoint Williamsburg IBZ is located northwest of the project area. To the northeast is the current and future Bushwick Inlet Park, and to the northeast is the Caron Park. The project area is within the transit zone and well served by public transportation, with access to the G train at Nassau Avenue and the L train at Bedford Avenue. There are two ferry stops at India Street and one at North 7th Street, and the B48 and B43 bus stops stop across the project area on the corner of Driggs and Lorimer Street, as well as Manhattan Avenue and Lorimer Street. Next slide, please. The project area consists of 4 tax lots located on block 2679, including lots 32, 34, 42, and 43. Next slide, please. So lot 43 is a development site. It's a 51,130 square foot applicant-owned lot improved with 3 three-story buildings comprised of a feather facility with an FAR of 2.59. Lot 42 is a 1,600 square foot lot improved with a 3-story 2.78 FAR building with 4 dwelling units and ground floor retail space occupied by a restaurant. Next slide, please. Lot 34 is a 2,259 square foot lot with permits for a new 6-story residential building and ground floor commercial use. Next slide, please. And lot 32 is a 2,310 square foot lot improved with a 4-story 2.86 FAR residential building with 7 dwelling units and 1 ground floor commercial unit occupied by a barber shop. Next slide, please. The development site is an irregularly shaped corner and interior lot with approximately 75 square feet of frontage along Lorimer Street and approximately 133 feet of frontage along Driggs Avenue. Both Lorimer Street and Driggs Avenue are 60 feet wide. Next slide, please. The proposed development is a new 10-story and cellar residential and commercial building with approximately 84,000 square feet of floor area with an FAR of 5.54. The proposed building would have a setback, the proposed building would have a height of 115 feet with a base height of 9 feet and a 15-foot setback at the 10th floor. The building would have approximately 83% lot coverage, no rear yard, and provide 28 off-street accessory parking spaces in the cellar and ground floor level. There would also be 1 new curb cut on Driggs Avenue to access the parking. The proposed building contains approximately 60,000 square feet of residential floor area with 74 dwelling units to be developed pursuant to quality housing regulations. The applicant is proposing MIH option 1 for the proposed development, which will result in 19 permanently affordable units at or below 60% of the AMI, with 10% at or below 40% of the AMI. The proposed building will also contain approximately 25,000 square feet of commercial floor area, with 4 retail spaces spread across the first 3 floors, as well as a cellar floor commercial space. Next slide, please. The applicant is seeking a zoning map amendment to change the existing M12, R6, MX8, and R6A C24 zoning districts to a C45D zoning district. Next slide, please. The zoning map change will increase the allowable non-residential capacity going from the existing C24 overlay and M12 R6 MX district, which allows for a commercial FAR of 2 to an FAR of 4.2 under the proposed C45D. C45D districts also allow for multi-story non-residential uses, which will facilitate 3 stories and 25,000 square feet of commercial space in the proposed building. There will also be an increase in residential capacity from R6 and R6A to R7D, going from an FAR of 3 to 4.2 or an FAR of 3.6 with inclusionary housing or 5.6 with MIH. The C45D also has less cumbersome parking requirements than the existing mixed use district and allows for commercial parking to be waived with less than 40 required spaces. Next slide, please. In addition to the zoning map amendment, the applicant is seeking a zoning text amendment to establish an MIH area with option 1 and 2 coterminous with the rezoning area. These actions would facilitate a 10-story mixed-use development with 74 residential units, of which 19 would be permanently affordable, and 25,000 square feet of commercial space. Next slide, please. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Lilia, for that. Are there any questions from the commission? Commissioner Burney.
No, thank you. Lila, could you just go to that last image that you showed of the project?
Yeah, the rendering.
The rendering, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, maybe when they come in, they can explain what's going on, but there's something strange going on here with that little corner building, which looks like a holdout.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay. So what have they done? Have they retained the building entirely, or have they reclad it? And why is it not just being demolished and rebuilt?
So that corner building there, so that is lot 42. So I believe the applicants tried to purchase that lot, but they're not interested in being a part of the development. So I'm not sure about the recladding of it.
So
it's not applicant owned.
No. Okay, it's not part of the project at all, in fact.
No.
Okay, got it. That explains it. Thank you. Good.
Commissioner Rampershell.
Sorry, thank you for the presentation. I was just wondering if they can please provide some plans for the building. I didn't see any in our package. Also the breakdown, how many 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom units they're going to be providing.
Sure.
Thank you.
I can also provide you guys with the plans that were submitted with the application as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Marin.
Lilia, or production, if you can put up the map of the zoning request, that would be great. I have a specific question regarding the extent of the zoning.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. I was curious as to what the composition was on the rest of Lorimer Street going towards Bedford and Nassau, only because it seems like a missed opportunity. And if you go to the slide with the elevations, I do believe there is some residential there. So I think that maybe it's a missed opportunity to capture the entire block, which seems to that it should be in conformance only because of the line of where the R6B and the proposed C45D are ending.
Yeah, this is kind of what the applicant was able to take on, just the block frontage and really what, the sites directly surrounding the development site. So I think that we
No,
would,
understood. So
Yeah.
this is that's fine. I just wanted to see if there was any opportunity. If it is applicant led and this is the extent that he could of their reach, and that's understood. And I was just curious because it does seem like a missed opportunity, knowing that there's some residential there, to sort of line up the whole block and put that as conformance with the rest of the neighborhood. But thank you, I appreciate that.
And we can come back with a list of the age and the types of developments that are occurring on Lorimer to showcase what building typologies are there and the age of them. I think there's some new construction as well along that corridor, which we'll highlight.
Good, Alex. Thank you. Commissioner Knuckles.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Is it the irregular shape of the site that does away with the rear yard requirements in this case? I'm just curious.
I can double check. I'll kind of look exactly.
It may be hard to accommodate, obviously, given the shape of the site, but I'm just curious as to why they're not required.
If the width of the block is less than like 100 feet from each corner, then that might be the case, but we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Levin.
Yes, thank you. Lily, I'll be interested when this comes back and understanding more about the applicant's vision for the commercial uses in this building. You indicated that there will be 4 retail spaces spread amongst 3 floors. And that seems like an awkward configuration, an unusual configuration.
Yeah, so.
Do you know what their plans are?
Yeah, I apologize if I caused confusion. So there's going to be retail on the ground floor, and then there'll be commercial above. So likely office space.
Okay.
But I can ask the applicant to kind of speak to exactly what uses they are hoping for in both retail and commercial spaces.
Okay, because at the moment there's not any retail frontage on the Lorimer Street side. I don't know if there is on Driggs. Is retail successful here? And then also, what's the likelihood of good tenanting for the commercial spaces, which seems to be a new kind of use for the area.
Okay, I can have the applicant speak to that at the public hearing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well then, thank you very much, Lilia. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is certified.
Yes, it's certified, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The second item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of a zoning map and zoning text amendment in Brooklyn Community District 15. Our presenter is David Weisglass.
Good afternoon. This is a private application by Coyle Properties LLC seeking a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment at 2134 Coyle Street in the Sheepshead Bay neighborhood of Community District 15 in Brooklyn. This project was certified on August 30th. The applicant is seeking 2 land use actions, a zoning map amendment, rezoning an R4 C12 district to R6A C24, and the zoning text amendment establishing a new mandatory inclusionary housing area with options 1 and 2. Next slide, please. The proposed project is a 5-story, 129,000 square foot mixed-use development, including approximately 120 dwelling units, 36 of which are to be permanently affordable. The applicant is proposing 168 parking spaces on 2 subgrade levels. The proposal is slightly different from what was presented to the commission at certification, which was 168 units and 195 parking spaces. The proposal has been modified in response to input from the Borough President's Office and the Community Board regarding the number of units with additional bedrooms. The alteration is only to the interior floor plates. The exterior bulk is to be the same as what was presented at certification, which you can see here. Next slide, please. The applicant is proposing a zoning map amendment, rezoning the R4 district with a C12 overlay to an R6A district with a C24 overlay as demonstrated on this slide. The zoning text amendment would establish a new mandatory inclusionary housing area mapped with options 1 and 2. Next slide, please. Community Board 15 held a hearing on October 26th and voted to recommend approval of the project without conditions. The vote was 28 in favor and 6 against. Next slide, please. The Borough President held a hearing on the project on November 1st. The Borough President's office recommends approval of the application with conditions as shown on this slide. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Can you just speak a little bit through the conditions and the applicant's response to them?
Certainly. So the first condition is basically memorialization of the represented building. As this is a rezoning, the department doesn't really have the means to lock in certain things. They can kind of build what the zoning would allow, but the items presented to the department, to the commission, meet the bulk of a 55-foot tall 5-story building with no less than 1 parking space per residential unit. And the represented non-residential accessory off-street parking spaces. I'll allow the applicant to speak more to that on Wednesday, but my understanding is that this proposal is what was presented to the community board during the ULURP process. Going down, I think I can let the applicant speak to items such as engaging with car share companies and the specific bedroom counts, but I do know that the community board and the borough president wanted a higher number of units with additional bedrooms, family sized units, which is why the number of total units is slightly lower than previously. I can let the applicant speak to nonprofits and their utilization of them in terms of lottery. The borough president recommended option 2. My understanding previously was that the applicant was interested in utilizing MIH option 1, but I don't want to speak for the applicant. There may be, more information, or they may still be considering that. And so I think with some of the other ones, we haven't gotten specific details in response to these recommendations, but I can let the applicant kind of speak to these on Wednesday.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions from the Commissioner Levin?
Yes, just to ask, I didn't see the borough president's recommendation in our package, but it may be tucked someplace I didn't find it. Could you double check that the borough president's recommendation was made available to the commission?
Oh, sure. I apologize if I didn't include it. I thought I did, but I'll double check on that. Thank you.
Thank you. It could well be there and I just missed it.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Okay, I don't see any. So this will be on for hearing on Wednesday. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Okay, the third item on our agenda is a pre-hearing review of a zoning map and zoning text amendment in Brooklyn Community District 15. David will present this as well.
Good afternoon. This is a private application by Mike Rose Realty seeking a zoning map amendment and zoning text amendment at 2892 Nostrand Avenue in the Madison neighborhood of Community District 15 in Brooklyn. The application was certified on August 16th. Next slide, please. The proposed development is a 9-story building of approximately 50,700 square feet, including approximately 43,300 square feet of residential use, 3,800 square feet of commercial use, and 3,600 square feet of community facility uses. At 93 feet high, the proposed development will provide 55 dwelling units, approximately 14 of which would be permanently affordable via MIH option 1. 56 vehicle parking spaces and 21 bicycle parking spaces would be available in the cellar. A rear yard open recreation area would be provided to residents. The number of parking spaces proposed at certification was 24. This number has been increased in response to community board input. Next slide, please. To facilitate the project, the applicant is proposing a zoning map amendment, rezoning the existing R32 to 3 new districts as shown here. Lot 65 through 69 and a portion of lot 240 would be rezoned to R6B C24. Lot 70 through 73 and a portion of lot 240 would be rezoned to R7A C24, and lots 1001 to 1048 and lot 82 would be rezoned to R7A. The project also includes zoning text amendment mapping the area with MIH options 1 and 2. Next slide, please. Community Board 15 held a hearing on October 26th and voted to recommend disapproval of the project without conditions. The recommendation stated that Community Board members felt that the proposed development was out of character with the neighborhood. Next slide, please. The Borough President held a hearing on the project on November 1st, but the department has yet to receive a recommendation from the Borough President's office. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, David. Are there any questions from the commission on this? Well, I don't see any. I would say that when we talked about this earlier, I did suggest that if you could ask the applicant to get a rendering showing the back of this building as it butts up against the lower buildings on the other street.
Absolutely. I've reached out to the applicant with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if I don't see any other questions, then this will be on for hearing on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the fourth item on our agenda is a post-referral review of a non-ULURP authorization in Brooklyn Community District 1. Our presenter is Alexandra Patty-Diaz.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is a private application for some waterfront authorizations to facilitate an as-of-right development of approximately 600,000 square feet in Brooklyn. Next. The project is the applicant, One Java Owners LLC, is requesting authorizations to modify the requirements, the design requirements of the waterfront public access area. An associated action is waterfront chairperson certification. Next. The project is located in Greenpoint Neighborhood Community District 1 in Brooklyn. Next. And the proposed waterfront public access area will be approximately of 22,800 square feet. Next, with 15,000 square feet of pier area consisting of the existing industry pier. Next, with approximately 7,600 square feet of shore public walkway. Next, and 4,000 square feet of supplemental public access area. Next. The applicant is proposing some authorizations to waive requirements based on the unit site conditions and flood resiliency. The first of them is to modify the screen buffer and planting requirements for it to be less than 4 feet and only 10% being evergreen species. Next. To provide wooden guardrails surrounding the proposed river reveal, which would allow, if we see next, multiple use of the around the rubber on the river reveal. Using the next slide. Next. There, which is providing seating, and it with the wooden would allow for people to see the river. And next, the applicant is also requesting a waiver of the guardrails which design regulations are in the WAP BK1 requirements, just to maintain the existing ones. Next. So CPC referred this application to CB1 on October 2nd, and CB1 held a meeting in November 1st. And during the meeting recommended to approve the variance regarding the screening buffer and to approve the addition of the wooden tops on the guardrails of the water reveal, and to disapprove the waiver for the non-conforming fencing on the pier. It also encouraged the applicant to make the design more fluid and to use native Virginia pines in the planting. Next, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Alexandra. Are there any questions? Commissioner Burney.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. What was the response of the applicant to the proposals by the community board?
Yeah, on the the community board is approving the waiver of the industry pier guardrail. The applicant understands their position. However, their argument is that since the existing fence was installed in 2010, it's in good condition, and replacing it will come to a significant cost to them, and they believe that the resources will be better used to safely repair, maintain, and operate the whole ferry landing for the many years to come. And while they're getting developed and the ferry keeps operating, as well as the addition of the waterfront public access area.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you know?
yeah, I can stop there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was the nature of the non-conformance? Do you know?
I don't know why the pier has the existing frame chain fence. What I do know is that it was built in 2010 when the ferries, when the system of the ferry system came into place.
Yeah. No, I'm just wondering what the nature of the non-conformance is, because if it becomes an active ferry, then you would expect to have at least a fence that conforms in terms of health and safety, right?
Tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was it's pretty much, it's an aesthetic issue, that there's a chain link fence and the fence specified.
Oh, it's chain link.
The fence work, the fence is providing its function. The comment is based on the specific design under the Brooklyn WAP1 the WAP. It has a specific design for guardrails throughout to be achieved throughout the whole waterfront. And what they're asking is to waive that in the pier to have to replace the existing fence to make it comply with what the WAP is regulating for. And I have response for fluidity and pines, but please go ahead.
Yeah, what do they mean by fluid design? I'd like to know what that is.
Well, in my conversation with the community board, they felt that the design was a little fragmented by its geometry. They like the programming, the experiences that the waterfront public access area is providing, but they felt like the path, what they imagine how to walk through the path might be a little bit, in the words, fragmented. So they asked the applicant if they could explore ways that it becomes more natural, less angular. And that's why you see in the design that there is kind of like a curve in one portion of the design, and then the angles come to make room for the river reveal. To this comment, what the applicant said is that they believe that they achieve the desired fluidity on the design, and that the geometries also serve in the multiple programs and spaces that they're creating throughout the WPAA.
So who actually maintains and programs the space? Is the applicant responsible for that?
The applicant will be responsible to develop, build, and maintain the space. It won't be transferred to DPR.
Okay, thank you.
To our knowledge, yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Commissioner Levin?
I'm just following up on that. Alexandra, I wonder, does the agency staff have any advice for us on these comments from the community board? I mean, the applicant's arguments sound like they make sense. Do they make sense to you as well?
I think that for the borough office, they have made sense throughout the process of having the project in our pipeline.
Okay. So on the question of the waiver of the fence, is it possible for the waiver to apply only for the life of the current fence? And if they had to replace the fence in the future, it would have to be consistent with the fencing that's required by the regulations in general?
Ryan,
I'll respond to that. So on the fencing, that's actually an interesting question. I don't think we've thought through that yet. What we'll do is for that and the pine question, the planting question, I think we need to coordinate with DPR and make sure that they're comfortable with both the M&O, the maintenance and operations agreement associated with WPAAs, and whether this could be part of the planting regime and if it would be required or not. So we still have to coordinate with DPR on this, and we can get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think we should go ahead.
I think we should be able to do that, to make the waiver temporal as long as that existing fencing is there. And if we can do it, I think it would be a very wise thing for us to do. So we will definitely look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any additional questions? Okay, if not, once we've answered these questions, this will be scheduled for a vote by the commission. Thank you.
Okay. The fifth item on our agenda is a post-referral review of a non-ULURP modification to previously approved authorization and special permit in the Bronx, Community District 6. Our presenter is Jutan Horseman.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is a post-referral application for non-ULURP modifications to parcel 5 of the Lambert large-scale residential development. Next slide, please. The Boston Tremont Housing Development Corporation is seeking a modification to a previously approved authorization for height and setback requirements and to permit the distribution of the total floor area in open space without regard for zoning lot lines or zoning district boundaries, and a modification to previously approved special permit to allow minor variations in height and setback regulations on the periphery of the Lambert Houses large-scale plan at 2082 Boston Road in Community District 6. Next slide, please. The site is located in the West Farms neighborhood with East 180th Street to the north, Boston Road to the west, the Bronx River to the east, and the 179th Street and the elevated 2 and 4 trains immediately to the south. The development site is currently occupied by a U-shaped 3-story residential building. Next slide, please. The site is located within R8 and R71 zoning district with the Bronx Park and the Bronx River nearby. The area contains predominantly mid-density multifamily to the west and manufacturing uses to the east in an M1 district. Next slide, please. The Lambert large scale, which is shown on this slide, was approved in 2016 with the area in red showing the block of the large scale that is seeking the modification. This block, known as Parcel 5, would be developed with a U-shaped building surrounded by a central courtyard per the original approval. Next slide, please. Showing the modified Parcel 5 site plan, there are 2 interconnected residential buildings, Building A in blue and Building B in red. The applicant is seeking a 1-foot reduction to both Buildings A and B floor plates from 60 feet to 59 and is seeking to add 1 story to Building B to go from 15 stories to 16 stories. The additional floor doesn't add any new height to the building and will be below the permitted large scale bulk approved for Parcel 5. The proposal will meet ZQA standards of 10-foot floor-to-floor heights. There's also a newly proposed 4,200 square foot storage and garage building on the southern portion of the site. Next slide, please. To show how the original large-scale modifications applied to Parcel 5, here on Building A along 180th Street, there's about a 26 feet that impacts the street wall height, and about 1.5 feet on floors 12 through 16 that impact the setback of the and sky exposure plane heights. Next slide, please. On Building B along 180th Street, there is a 5-foot impact on the street wall height and 1-foot impact on the setback height on the 10th and 11th floors. Next slide, please. On Building A along Boston Road, there is about a 26.5 feet that impacts the street wall height and about 7 feet on floors 12 through 16 that impact the setback and sky exposure plane heights. To reiterate, the applicant will be using these previously approved height modifications, but will not be seeking to change them as the height of the building remains unchanged. Next slide, please. The 1-foot reduction in the Building 5A and 5B floor plates frees up approximately 14,400 square feet that would be applied to the additional floor in Building 5B, as well as the 4,200 square foot storage building. This ultimately resulted in approximately 1,300 square foot reduction compared to the potential floor area allocated to Parcel 5. At the referral presentation, Commissioners Marin and Ortiz asked questions about the ground floor, particularly as there were concerns about the height being reduced and how it may impact potential uses. Phipps Houses, who is working with HPD on development of the large scale, stated that there is no intention of any use besides residential on this block, which would include the ground floors of both buildings A or buildings B. To further expand on the answer, before the block was ready to start development, there was a new survey done and it found that there is a larger grade change sloping from building A downward toward building B than in the original surveys, which allowed them the ability to add another story while reducing the floor to floor on the ground floor from approximately 15 feet to 11 feet. You can see the curb level on the elevation drawing, which shows the grade difference with building B having an approximately 5 feet lower curb level. With HPD and Phipps focusing on maximizing the amount of affordable housing, they saw this unexpected grade difference as an opportunity to add a floor while providing the same level of floor to floor heights as in the rest of the buildings on this parcel. It's worth noting that while parcel 5 doesn't increase the number of units originally proposed from 279 units, it is allocating more 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units than they previously could have built, which is a greater need in the Bronx. You can see the numbers here. Studios, there's only gonna be 4 units, 1 bedrooms, 53 units, 2 bedrooms, 75 units, 3 bedrooms, 136 units, and 4 bedrooms and 11 units. Next slide, please. Additionally, we want to note that the project is modifying the drawings of the original large-scale restrictive declaration to show compliance with the following courtyard requirements, which will provide a variety of landscape elements, access to the courtyard, adequate lighting, variety of seating, visibility from the street, courtyard walls, trees, lighting, buffer from residences, and sidewalk and clear path along the sidewalks. Next slide, please. Committee Board 6 voted on November 11th to support the project with a vote of 28 in favor, no opposed, and 2 abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you. Jutan, are there any questions for Jutan? Seeing none, I will ask for an assent by a show of hands to allow us to send a letter to DOB. So all of those who are in favor, please say yay.
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 And any opposed, say nay, please. Okay, then we shall send this letter to DOB. Thank you very much, Jutan.
Thank you all. Bye.
The 6th item on our agenda is a post-referral review of a non-ULURP authorization in Manhattan Community District 5. Our presenter is Jose Trucios.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. The first Elevate Transit application is back after completing a public review. The application was certified on October 4. Next slide, please. This is a private application introduced by BOP 57 LLC for a zoning authorization pursuant to section 666-511 of the zoning resolution to allow the utilization of additional floor area for mass transit improvements. The action will facilitate the development of an otherwise authorized 63 stories mixed-use building standing at 1,100 feet with approximately 300,000 square footage of total floor area. And it will also include 33 residential units and 137 hotel keys. If approved, the authorization will permit an increase in the amount of floor area for the proposed building by 53,029 square feet. Next slide, please. The proposed development is located at 4147 West 57th Street within the Special Midtown District in Manhattan Community District 5. The majority of the development site is in a C5 2.5 and a C5 3 zoning districts within the Midtown Special District. And the remaining portion is in C5 1 zoning district outside the Special District. The site is an irregular shaped through lot on a block bounded by West 57th Street, 5th Avenue, West 57th Street, and 6th Avenue. It includes blocks 1273 and lots 7, 9, 10, and 65. The lots will be merged into a single lot before the construction of the proposed building. The proposed granting station is located at West 57 and 6th Avenue, serving the F line on the west of the site. And while the surrounding area is well served by public transportation, the granting station doesn't have any ADA accessibility. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, the authorization will result in a blended maximum floor area bonus of 2.75 FAR, which is equivalent to the 53,020 square footage. The additional floor area would allow the proposed development to obtain a total of approximately 318 square footage of total floor area, standing at 16.53 FAR. The as-arrived and the proposed with action scenarios had the same overall building height and the similar program. Approval of the action will alter only the received portion of the east and the west facing facades. The exterior, the envelope of the building will not change. In accordance to the requirements within the Midtown district, no parking is required and none will be provided for any of the proposed uses. As shown in the picture, each mechanical floor is about 25 feet or less, and there is space at a greater than 70 feet apart. They will contain mechanical equipment, fire tanks. The floor will also serve as a structural purpose to tie back the outer shear walls within the exterior for strengthening the core. And the 5 mechanical ball heads also include substantial mechanical equipment. Next slide. As I mentioned, the granting station is located on the west side on West 57th Street and 6th Avenue, with entrances in West 57 and West 57th Street on the east and the west side, and is serving the F line. Zoning for accessibility encourage private funding of major improvements in mass transit stations in high density districts in exchange for a floor area bonus by expanding the radius for eligibility for the bonus and modifying the approval process from a special permit to an authorization. It applies in all R9 and R10 districts or commercial districts with an R9 and R10 equivalents. Additionally, in order to qualify for the additional floor area, the site needs to be located within 1,500 feet if located in the central business district, or 500 feet if not in the central business district of the granting station. In this case, the proposed granting station is only 170 feet from development site, and all 3 districts have a residential district equivalent of a northern district. The application does qualify for the bonus. Next slide, please. The applicant collaborated with the MTA and the New York City Transit Authority to define a scope of work to increase the ADA accessibility and additional safety measures on granting station. On August 24 of this year, the MTA issued a letter stating that the agency and the applicant had agreed on the station improvements that, in the MTA's view, justify the requested additional floor area bonus. The proposed improvements will include the construction of 2 elevators, which will provide ADA access from the street to the mezzanine and from the mezzanine to the platform, and elevator machine serving both rooms, both elevators, sorry, and the reconfiguration of the fare control and the new automated fare carrier access gates to accommodate the mezzanine to platform elevator. There are other station improvements like the construction of ADA car cuts at the corner of 56th Street and Avenue of the Americas. Next slide, please. On November 3rd, the Land Use Committee of Community Board 5 voted to approve the application with conditions. This resolution was then rectified by the General Board on November 10, which voted to disapprove the application unless the following conditions were met. The car cuts and the ramps should be the maximum size allowable. In response to this, the developer will propose DOT widest ramps that meet the Department of Transportation standards, as they might be affected by the specific locations and sidewalks. All the final dimensions and construction will need to are pending DOT approvals in the ADA sidewalk car cuts in general. There should be no incremental shadows and cast from the proposal building within the bonus when compared with what the applicant could build as a right. The EIS issued a negative declaration, and the lead agency being DCP, acting on the behalf of the City Planning Commission, determined that the proposed actions will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. The proposed action with action scenarios will not have any difference between the cast and shadows. And the other 4 items are more related to the actual zoning mechanism and zoning and NTA's utility, as the NTA must disclose the funding mechanisms and more the lump sum payment be allocated to the repair of this project only. This has been shared with the NTA, who were present at both meetings in terms of how to best utilize the maintenance agreement that the applicant is proposing for this project. We don't have any comments on that at the moment. Community Board recommends that the NTA study and where all possible provide redundancy in every project. With the community board is asking for in here is to, where possible, have 2 elevators. In this case, it was not feasible to have 2 elevators because of the service conducted by the applicant and DOT. The next one is the community board further requests that redundancy be required via zoning text amendment, and the redundancy will be a feature that CB5 will look for in any further as CFA applications. So they're just trying to amend the zoning for elevate transit text amendment to include the construction of 2 elevators. And as another comment. And in the last one, which is Community Board 5 requests that the Department of City Planning create a new tool which will require environmental studies to include the totality of recent bills and as well as those bills coming in the pipeline. When preparing the analysis, applicants look at the projections gathered from the list of the Department of Buildings and the Department of Housing and Preservation and Development pipeline and all the data sets to see what is projected in the area. This can be found in the land use zoning and public policy analysis chapters in the EIS, as well as the recent bills. This will already be encapsulated in the existing conditions and no action conditions of the EIS. So they already accounted in the analysis as a response to that community board resolution. The resolution was approved with a vote of 29 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstaining. Next slide, please. And to summarize, the applicant requests the maximum allowable bonus for zoning resolution 66511, which is equal to the 20% of the additional floor area in exchange for the transit improvements of the granting station located at West 57th Street and 6th Avenue. The applicant and the MTA believe that the upgrades will improve circulation, reduce congestion, and make the station ADA accessible. And the proposed improvements will increase the number of ADA accessible stations of the F line from 14 to 15 out of 45 stations, and in Manhattan from 4 to 5, which is represents a 25% increase. With that, I can answer any questions the commission might have.
Thank you very much, Jose. Are there any questions from the commission? Well, I don't see any, so I guess this will be scheduled for a vote. Thank you.
And I want to note that we scheduled this item for a vote for Wednesday, December 1st. Okay.
Thank you very much.
The 7th item on our agenda is a city council modification scope determination to 506 3rd Avenue. This was a rezoning and text amendment in Brooklyn. The city council proposes to modify the text amendment to eliminate MIH option 2 and replace it with the deep affordability option. Staff believe that this modification is within scope.
Okay.
Any
So,
further questions?
are there any questions? So if not, I'll ask to send a scope determination letter to the city council. All of those in favor of our sending the letter, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will send the letter to the city council. Thank you.
Okay. So for Wednesday, December 1st, 2021, staff have prepared reports for 79 Key Street, 1 Wythe Avenue, Coney Island East Parkland map split, 31st Street and Hoyt Avenue, 4520 83rd Street, 16210 Jamaica Avenue, the law office. There was a letter in the package, I believe, on that. And 415 Madison Avenue. Questions on those? Okay. Also scheduled for decision on Wednesday are Belfield Avenue, 263 Edgegrove Avenue, 66 Gibson Avenue, 322 Winchester Avenue, 81 Halpern Avenue, 77 and 85 Circle Road, which are all special district applications in Staten Island. And then for post-hearing follow-ups, if there are any further questions on 749 Van Sinderen Avenue rezoning. Okay, or the NYPD Bronx Special Victim Services site selection. Okay. And that's it for our agenda today.
Okay, so I guess with that, we will say the meeting is adjourned, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. See you Wednesday.